The burning world filled the observation window with orange light. High Admiral Kethvorin stood with his forearms clasped behind his back and watched the cities die. Smoke rose from 1,000 fires. The primitive species below had fought bravely for 19 days. They had thrown everything they had at the Dominion fleet: missiles, energy weapons, even nuclear bombs. It had not mattered. The Velthari Dominion had conquered the galaxy for 12,000 years. They had absorbed 7 species into their empire. They had crushed rebellions on 10,000 worlds. They had never lost a war, not once, not ever. Kethvorin's second officer approached and bowed low. "High Admiral, the surface resistance has ended. The harvesting teams are landing now. Casualties: 14 ships damaged. 237 soldiers killed." Kethvorin made a dismissive gesture with his upper right hand. "Acceptable. Begin the standard extraction. I want all useful resources cataloged within 30 cycles." "Yes, High Admiral." The officer hurried away. Kethvorin returned his attention to the burning world. He felt nothing as he watched the smoke rise. This was simply what the Dominion did. They found primitive species. They gave them a choice between surrender and death. Most chose death. It made no difference either way. The Dominion was not cruel. They were simply efficient. Primitive species had resources, labor, genetic material, technology sometimes. These things had value. The primitive species themselves did not. They were obstacles to be removed, tools to be used, nothing more. Kethvorin had served the Dominion for 300 years. He had conquered 47 worlds. He had killed billions of beings. He slept well every night. Why would he not? He was doing his duty. He was serving his people. He was continuing the great work that had made the Dominion the most powerful force in the known galaxy. His personal communicator chimed. He activated it with a thought. "Hi, Admiral. This is Intelligence Director Voss. I have something you need to see." "I am busy, Director." "This cannot wait, sir. We have discovered a new species." Kethvorin sighed. New species appeared every few years. They were always the same: primitive, weak, easily conquered. "Send me the summary report. I will review it when the current harvest is complete." "Sir, I really think you should see this now." Something in the director's voice made Kethvorin pause. Voss was not a being who worried easily. In fact, Kethvorin had never heard worry in her voice before. "Very well, I am coming." He left the observation deck and walked through the corridors of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. Soldiers saluted as he passed. Officers bowed. Kethvorin ignored them all. His mind was already working on the problem. What could possibly concern Intelligence Director Voss? The Intelligence Center was deep in the heart of the ship. Voss met him at the door. She was a small creature by Dominion standards, with gray skin and large black eyes. Her species had been conquered 8,000 years ago. Now they served as the Dominion's intelligence gatherers. They were very good at finding information. They were very bad at hiding their emotions. Right now, Voss looked afraid. "Show me," Kethvorin said. Voss led him to a large display screen. She touched a control, and a star map appeared. The Orion arm of the galaxy spread across the screen in glowing points of light. 3 cycles ago, one of our deep space probes detected artificial signals from this region. Voss pointed to an unremarkable section of space. "We sent scout ships to investigate. And they found a species we have never encountered before. They call themselves humans." The screen changed to show images. Kethvorin studied them with professional interest. The humans were strange-looking creatures. Soft, fleshy. They had only 2 arms and 2 legs. Their skin came in various shades of brown and pink. They looked fragile, breakable. "How many world?" Kethvorin asked. 43 confirmed colonies, 1 homeworld called Earth. "Fleet strength?" "Approximately 800 military vessels." Kethvorin almost laughed. 800 ships. The invasion fleet under his command numbered 12,000. The full Dominion military had over 2 million warships. These humans were insects. Population? 32 billion across all worlds. Technology level? Comparable to the Dreth when we first encountered them. Basic faster-than-light travel. Standard energy weapons. Nuclear capabilities. Nothing special. Kethvorin nodded slowly. This was a typical primitive species. He had conquered dozens just like them. Why did you call me here, Director? This is routine. Voss hesitated. Her large black eyes blinked rapidly. There are anomalies, sir. Explain. Our scouts attempted to gather more detailed intelligence. Standard procedure. They tried to tap into human communication networks. They tried to observe human military installations. They tried to capture human vessels for study. And they failed. All of them. Kethvorin frowned. What do you mean, failed? I mean our scouts could not penetrate human security systems. I mean human patrols detected our cloaked ships. I mean the human vessels we tried to capture somehow escaped every trap we set. Voss pulled up more data on the screen. In 200 years of intelligence operations, I have never seen a species detect our cloaked ships. These humans did it 3 times in 3 cycles. Perhaps your scouts were careless. Perhaps, but there is more. Voss changed the display again. We have been unable to locate the human military fleet. You said they have 800 vessels. They do. We have confirmed this through intercepted communications, but we cannot find them. All 43 human worlds show only civilian traffic. Cargo ships, passenger transports, mining vessels. The military ships are simply gone. Kethavaran felt the first small stirring of unease. He pushed it aside. They are hiding. Primitive species often try to hide their military assets when they detect a threat. Of course, sir. That is the most logical explanation. You do not sound convinced. Voss was quiet for a moment. Hi, Admiral. I have studied thousands of species over my career. I know how primitives behave when they face the Dominion. They panic. They send desperate messages to neighbors begging for help. They argue among themselves about whether to fight or surrender. They make mistakes. And the humans? Nothing. Complete silence on military channels, perfect operational security, and something else. Voss brought up one final image. It showed a single human standing on what appeared to be a space station. The human was looking directly at the camera. He was smiling. This image was captured by one of our cloaked probes just before it was destroyed. Destroyed? The probe was hit by a weapon we do not recognize. It came from nowhere. There was no warning. One moment the probe was operating normally. The next moment it was slag. Voss pointed at the smiling human. He knew the probe was there. He knew exactly where it was. And he smiled for the camera before killing it. Kethvorin studied the image. The human's smile bothered him. It was not the smile of a frightened primitive. It was not the desperate grin of prey trying to appear brave. It was the smile of someone who knew something that Kethvorin did not. He shook off the feeling. He was High Admiral of the Dominion. He had conquered 47 worlds. He did not get frightened by smiling primitives. Prepare the standard ultimatum, he ordered. 43 worlds is a small conquest. We will add them to the current campaign. Yes, High Admiral. What terms should we offer? The usual. Surrender all worlds. Submit to harvesting quotas. Accept Dominion rule. Give them 30 cycles to respond. Voss bowed and began preparing the message. Kethavoran watched the image of the smiling human for a moment longer. Then he turned and walked away. There was nothing special about these humans. They were just another primitive species. In 30 cycles, they would surrender or die. It made no difference either way. The ultimatum was sent. Kethavoran returned to his observation deck to watch the final stages of the current harvest. He put the humans out of his mind. They were not worth thinking about. 29 cycles passed. On the 30th cycle, a response arrived from Earth. Kethavoran was eating his evening meal when his communicator chimed. He activated it with mild curiosity. High Admiral, we have received the human response to our ultimatum. Read it. There was a pause. Sir, the entire message is only one sentence. Read it anyway. It says, we decline, but we would prefer to talk. Kethavoran set down his eating utensils. For a long moment, he simply stared at the wall. In 300 years, he had sent hundreds of ultimatums to primitive species. None of them had ever responded with something so brief, so calm, so utterly unafraid. We decline, but we would prefer to talk. Not we surrender. Not we will fight to the death. Not please have mercy on us. Just a polite refusal and an invitation to negotiate. It was almost insulting. High Admiral, your orders? Kethrin pushed aside his meal. His appetite was gone. Signal the fleet. We move on the human systems immediately. Full invasion force. 12,000 ships. Yes, sir. Any special instructions? Kethrin thought about the smiling human in the photograph. He thought about the hidden fleet that no one could find. He thought about the scout ships that had been detected and destroyed. Tell all captains to maintain full alert status. And Director Voss, sir, find me that human fleet. I want to know where they are hiding before we arrive. Understood, sir. The communication ended. Keth Varan stood and walked to his observation window. The harvesting was almost complete below. Soon they would move on to the human worlds. 43 planets, 800 ships, 32 billion primitives. It would be over in days. But as Keth Voran stared out at the stars, he could not shake the memory of that smiling human face. And for the first time in 300 years, the High Admiral of the Velthari Dominion felt something he did not recognize. It took him a moment to identify the emotion. It was doubt. The Dominion fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. 12,000 warships arranged in a sphere of death around the first human colony. New Valencia, the humans called it. 4 million people lived here. Farms and factories covered the main continent. Cities glowed with lights along the coastlines. Keth Varan stood on his command bridge and studied the tactical display. Everything looked normal. The planet rotated slowly below them. Satellites orbited in neat patterns. Ships moved between the surface and orbital stations. Scan for military vessels, he ordered. Scanning now, High Admiral. The sensor officer worked his controls for several minutes. His confusion was visible. Sir, I am detecting no military vessels in this system. None? Only civilian craft, cargo haulers, passenger shuttles, mining ships, nothing with weapons. Kethaveran frowned. This made no sense. When the Dominion invaded, species always gathered their military forces to defend their worlds. It was basic survival instinct. Where were the human warships? Perhaps they are hiding behind the planet, suggested his second officer. Scan everything. Every moon, every asteroid, every piece of debris. The scanning took 2 hours. The result was the same. No military vessels anywhere in the system. They must be gathering their forces elsewhere, Kethaveran decided. No matter. We will take this world and move on. Launch the landing forces. Thousands of drop ships descended toward the planet. Kethaveran watched them fall like metal rain toward the cities below. In his experience, this was always the moment when primitives panicked. They would see the sky fill with enemy ships. They would scream, they would run, they would die. The drop ships landed, soldiers poured out. They swept through the cities with weapons ready. They found no one. High Admiral, the ground teams are reporting unusual conditions. Explain. The cities are empty, sir. All of them. There are no humans anywhere on this planet. Kethaveran felt his blood run cold. That is impossible. 4 million people cannot simply vanish. I am only reporting what the teams have found, sir. The cities are intact. The power is running. The food is still fresh in some homes. But there are no people. Not one. Search everywhere. Underground bunkers, hidden shelters. They must be hiding. The search lasted 3 days. Soldiers went through every building, every tunnel, every cave on the planet. They found abandoned pets waiting patiently for owners who would never return. They found meals half-eaten on tables. They found children's toys scattered in playgrounds. They did not find a single human being. Kethvorin ordered the fleet to move on. The second colony was the same. Empty cities, running power, fresh food, no people. The third colony was the same. The fourth, the fifth, world after world after world. All empty, all silent. Billions of humans had simply disappeared. Intelligence Director Voss appeared on the bridge on the 7th day. She looked worse than before. Her gray skin had gone pale. Her hands trembled slightly. Report, Kethaveran demanded. We have now surveyed 17 human colonies. All are abandoned. Total population of these worlds was approximately 19 billion. Where did they go? We do not know, sir. There is no sign of mass evacuation, no refugee fleets, no panic. It appears they simply left, all at once, without any trace of how they did it. That is not an answer, Director. I know, sir. I have no answers. Only questions. Kethvorin turned back to the main view screen. The 17th empty world hung in space before them. It was a beautiful planet. Blue oceans, green forests, white clouds, a world that should have held 2 billion people and their dreams and their fears. Instead, it held only silence. Sir! The sensor officer's voice cracked with sudden alarm. I am detecting a ship emerging from behind the gas giant. Finally, on screen. The view screen flickered. Then it showed the approaching vessel. Kethvaran's heart stopped. The ship was enormous. It was larger than anything he had ever seen, larger than his flagship, larger than the great battle stations that guarded Dominion homeworlds. It was so big that the tactical computer had trouble calculating its exact size. The display simply flashed. Dimensions exceed normal parameters. The hull was black, not just painted black, but truly black. It seemed to swallow light itself. Looking at it hurt Kethvaran's eyes. It was like staring into a hole in space. The ship moved slowly toward the Dominion fleet. It made no aggressive moves. It simply approached with patient, terrible purpose. All ships, battle stations, Kethvaran shouted. Arm all weapons, raise all shields. 12,000 warships prepared for combat. Weapons hummed to life. Shields flared with energy. Targeting systems locked onto the black vessel. The black ship stopped. It hung motionless in space, surrounded by the Dominion fleet. Then it spoke. A human voice came through every speaker on every ship. It was calm, gentle, almost kind. This is the HSS Mercy. We would still prefer to talk, but we understand if you need a demonstration first. Kethvaran leaned forward. Human vessel, you are surrounded and outgunned. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed. Silence. Then a soft sound that might have been laughter. We are not outgunned, Admiral. We never have been. But you cannot know that yet, so we will show you. The black ship fired. A single beam of white light emerged from somewhere on its hull. The beam passed through the Dominion fleet without touching any ships. It continued outward, past the fleet, past the orbital stations, past the empty planet. It struck the system's sun. What are they doing? Someone asked. Then the star flickered. Kethvaran watched in horror as the sun began to dim. It was not an eclipse. It was not a sensor malfunction. The star itself was dying. Its light faded from bright yellow to dull orange to deep red. All ships, full retreat, now! The Dominion fleet fled. 12,000 warships ran from a dying star. They jumped to faster-than-light travel and emerged at the coordinates the human ship had broadcast. They were now 10 light-years from the collapsing star. Kethvaran stood on his bridge and watched the tactical display. The star was still visible on long-range sensors. It was shrinking, collapsing, dying. A star, a living star, killed with a single shot. The human voice spoke again, still calm, still gentle. You have weapons that destroy worlds, Admiral. We have weapons that destroy stars. Your weapons are impressive to primitive species. Our weapons are impressive to gods. Kethvaran could not speak. His throat had closed. His heart raced. He had seen the death of worlds. He had ordered the death of worlds. But stars were eternal. Stars were sacred. Stars did not die from weapons fire. Now, the human voice continued, shall we talk? We really would prefer to talk. We have been watching your dominion for 200 years. We know what you do to other species. We know about the harvest. We know about the subjugation. We know about the 12,000 years of conquest. Then you know we cannot be stopped, Kethvaran managed to say. Of course you can be stopped. We could stop you today. We could end your entire civilization before you finished your next meal. We have ships like the Mercy Station throughout your territory. We have weapons that make star killing look like children playing with toys. Then why have you not attacked? Because we do not want to. Because we are tired of death. Because we spent too many centuries learning how to destroy, and now we are trying to learn how to build instead. The human voice paused. When it spoke again, it was softer than before. We could kill you all, Admiral. Every Dominion ship, every Dominion world, every Dominion being. We have the power. We have had the power for a very long time. But power is not the same as purpose. We do not want to be your executioners. We want to be your teachers. Teach us what? How to be better. How to build instead of destroy. How to see other species as partners instead of prey. Another pause. We want to give you a choice, Admiral. Something your Dominion has never given anyone else. Kethaveron stared at the tactical display. The star was almost gone now. A fading ember where a sun had burned for 5 billion years. Destroyed in moments, by one ship, with one shot. What choice? He asked. That is not for us to discuss here. We are sending a shuttle with an ambassador. She will explain everything. She will answer your questions. And then you will have to decide what kind of species you want to be. And if we attack your shuttle, you will not. You are frightened, Admiral, but you are not stupid. You know now what we can do. You know we could end this conversation by ending your fleet. The fact that you are still alive proves something important. What does it prove? That we meant what we said. We would really prefer to talk. The communication ended. On the sensors, a small shuttle detached from the black ship and began moving toward the Dominion flagship. Kethaveran watched it approach. His officers watched him. No one spoke. No one moved. In 12,000 years, the Dominion had never faced anything like this. They had conquered. They had harvested. They had ruled. They had never been prey. Until now. The shuttle docked with the flagship. The airlock cycled. The door opened. A small, older human woman walked onto the bridge. She had gray hair and brown skin, and eyes that seemed to carry enormous weight. She looked around at the towering Dominion officers, at their weapons and their fear, and she smiled. Hello, Admiral, she said. My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. I understand you have questions. She reached into a small bag and pulled out a container. Also, I brought tea. I find that difficult conversations go better with tea. Kethaveran stared at her. This small, fragile creature who represented a species that could kill stars. This gentle-looking woman who held the fate of his entire civilization in her hands. Why? He asked. Why offer us anything? Why not simply destroy us? Dr. Chen's smile faded. Her eyes grew sad. Because we know what destruction costs, she said softly. We know better than anyone, and we have decided that we do not want to pay that price anymore. Not for ourselves, and not for you. She held up the tea container. Now, shall we talk? The tea was hot and bitter. Kethaveran held the small cup in his massive hands and stared at the steam rising from the dark liquid. Around him, his officers stood frozen with fear and confusion. Before him sat Dr. Sarah Chen, calmly sipping her own tea as if she were visiting old friends. You killed a star, Kethaveran said. Yes. How? Would you like the technical explanation or the simple one? Simple. Dr. Chen set down her cup. We discovered how to trigger a cascade reaction in stellar cores about 150 years ago. The weapon essentially convinces the star to burn all its remaining fuel at once. Very fast. Very final. Why would anyone build such a thing? The old woman was quiet for a moment. Her eyes grew distant. Because we were afraid. Because we looked out at the galaxy and saw species like yours conquering everything they touched. Because we decided that if anyone ever came for us, we would be ready. You were afraid of us? Of course. We detected your dominion 300 years ago. We watched you conquer world after world. We saw what you did to the species that surrendered. We saw what you did to the species that fought back. We saw that it made no difference. You destroyed them all eventually. Kethaveran felt a strange sensation. It took him a moment to recognize it as shame. We did what was necessary for our people. I am sure that is what you told yourselves. Dr. Chen's voice held no anger, only sadness. Every species that commits atrocities tells itself the same thing. We certainly did. Your species committed atrocities? Oh, Admiral, you have no idea. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small device. May I show you something? I think it will help you understand why we made the choices we made. Kethaveran nodded. Dr. Chen activated the device. A holographic display appeared in the air between them. Images began to play. This is Earth, our homeworld, about 400 years ago. The images showed a blue-green planet, much like the empty human colonies the Dominion had found. But these images were different. They showed cities burning. They showed mushroom clouds rising over landscapes. They showed bodies. So many bodies. We call this the age of self-destruction. For almost 200 years, we came very close to ending ourselves. We built weapons that could burn entire continents, and we used them on each other. On our own people. The images continued. Mass graves, starving children, poisoned water, dead forests. Dr. Chen narrated each one with steady voice. We had 2 world wars, hundreds of smaller wars. We invented genocide before we invented space travel. We split the atom and immediately used it to vaporize 2 cities full of innocent people. We pumped poison into our air until our planet began to die. We looked at our home and saw only resources to exploit. This is your own history? Yes. Unedited. Unfiltered. These are our greatest shames. These are the things we did when we thought we had the right to do anything, when we believed that strength meant the freedom to destroy without consequence. The images changed. Now they showed something different. People planting trees, cities rebuilt with clean energy, former enemies shaking hands, a slowly healing planet. It took us almost dying to learn better. It took looking at the wasteland we had made and finally asking, is this who we want to be? The answer was no. And so we began the long, hard work of becoming something else. You changed, Catherine said. We tried to change. We are still trying. Every day. It is the hardest thing we have ever done. Much harder than building star-killing weapons. Much harder than hiding our fleet from your scouts. Changing who you are takes more strength than any war. Kethovoran set down his tea. His hands were trembling slightly. Why are you showing me this? Why reveal your weaknesses to an enemy? Because they are not weaknesses. They are our greatest strength. Dr. Chen leaned forward. Admiral, any species can learn to destroy. It takes intelligence, resources, and time. But destruction is easy. Building is hard. Choosing not to destroy when you have the power to do so, that is the hardest thing of all. I do not understand. I know. That is why I am here. She turned off the holographic display. Let me ask you a question. In 12,000 years of conquest, how many species has the Dominion encountered that could genuinely threaten your existence? Kethovoran thought. None. We have always been the strongest. Until now. Until now, he agreed. And how does it feel? Knowing that everything you built could be taken away? Knowing that your people could be harvested just as you have harvested others? Knowing that all your power means nothing against an enemy who is truly stronger? The shame grew heavier. Kethovoran had watched species face this realization for 300 years. He had seen the fear in their eyes, the despair, the helpless rage. Now he felt it himself. It is terrible, he admitted. Yes, it is. And every species you have conquered has felt exactly this way. Every world you have harvested has known this terror. Billions of beings across thousands of years have looked up at your ships and felt what you feel now. I never thought of it that way. No, you did not have to. You were strong. You could do whatever you wanted. So you did. Dr. Chen's voice softened. We were the same once. We did terrible things because we could, because there was no one strong enough to stop us. It took nearly destroying ourselves to learn that strength without wisdom is just another word for cruelty. Kethovoran was silent for a long time. His officers watched. No one spoke. Finally, the High Admiral asked the question that burned in his heart. What do you want from us? We want to offer you a choice, a real choice, something you have never given anyone else. What choice? Dr. Chen stood. She was so small compared to the massive Dominion officers. Yet somehow she seemed to fill the room. Choice 1. You continue as you are. You reject everything I have said. You return to your homeworld and tell your leaders that humans are a threat to be eliminated. You gather every ship in your fleet and come at us with everything you have. And you will destroy us? No. We will stop you. We will disable your ships without killing your crews. We will ground your fleets without burning your worlds. We will contain you until you are no longer a threat to anyone. That is not destruction? Not the way you mean it. You would survive. Your worlds would survive. Your people would survive. You would simply not be able to hurt anyone else ever again. Kethavaran considered this. Containment. Not death, but imprisonment. A cage made of their own worlds. It was almost worse than destruction. And choice two? You change. Not all at once. Not overnight. But you begin the process. You stop the conquest. You free the species you have subjugated. You join a new federation of equals where every species has a voice and a vote. You would trust us after everything we have done? Trust is earned. It would take time. Generations, perhaps. But we believe it is possible. We believe that any species capable of building starships is capable of building a better society. We believe that you are more than what you have done. Why? Why do you believe this? Dr. Chen smiled. It was a tired smile. A smile that had seen too much suffering and still chose hope. Because we were worse than you, Admiral. Much worse. We did things to each other that your dominion has never imagined. And if we could change, if we could crawl out of the darkness we had created and become something better, then so can you. She pulled out another small device and set it on the table. This contains our full history, everything, every war, every genocide, every atrocity, every mistake. It also contains what came after, how we rebuilt, how we learned, how we became the species that would rather talk than fight, even when we have weapons that can kill stars. You are giving us this? Yes, study it, learn from it, see what we were and what we became, then decide what you want to be. Kethavaran picked up the device. It was so small, so light, yet it contained the hope and horror of an entire species. There is one more thing you need to know, Dr. Chen said, about your fleet. What about it? You have 12,000 ships here. That is most of your invasion force. But we know the Dominion has over 2 million warships total. We know you could send for reinforcements. We know you could fight us for centuries if you chose to. So you should know that we have 17 ships like the Mercy. They are positioned throughout Dominion space. Every one of your major worlds is within range of our weapons. If you choose to fight, we will not chase your fleets across the galaxy. We will simply end your ability to make war. The words hung in the air. Kethavaran understood what she was saying. The humans could kill every Dominion homeworld, every star that warmed a Dominion planet. They could end the Dominion in a single coordinated strike. But you will not do this, he said slowly, or you would have done it already. Correct. We do not want to be executioners. We do not want to add your billions of dead to the weight we already carry. But we will do what we must to protect other species from what you have done. If you force us to choose between your civilization and all the others you would conquer, we will choose them. This is your offer? Change or die? No, Admiral. This is our offer. Change or be stopped. We will not kill you unless you leave us no choice. We will not become what we once were, not even to defeat you, but we will protect the innocent. We will stand between you and your victims. We will do whatever it takes to end the harvest. Dr. Chen picked up her empty teacup and returned it to her bag. Take this information back to your leaders. Let them study our history. Let them see what we were and what we became. Then let them choose. She walked toward the airlock. At the door, she turned back. We will wait, Admiral. We have waited 200 years already. We can wait a little longer. But please, for your sake and ours, choose wisely. The door closed behind her. The shuttle detached. The Mercy remained where it was, a mountain of black metal hanging in space, waiting. Kethavaran looked at the small device in his hands. He thought about everything he had seen, the empty worlds, the dying star, the images of human history, the small woman who had walked onto his bridge without fear and offered his entire civilization a choice. Set course for home, he ordered. Maximum speed. Sir, what about the invasion? The invasion is over. Kethavaran closed his fingers around the device. We have something more important to do now. What, sir? The High Admiral of the Velthari Dominion looked out at the stars. Somewhere behind them, a sun was dying because one ship had fired one shot. Somewhere ahead of them, 2 million warships waited for orders that might never come. We have to decide what we want to be, Kethvorin said quietly. For the first time in 12,000 years, we have to actually choose. The Dominion Council chamber had not heard shouting in 3,000 years. Disagreements were settled through subtle gestures and careful words. Direct conflict was considered primitive, uncivilized. Now the chamber echoed with rage. "We must attack!" roared Fleet Commander Thoss. He was old, even by Dominion standards. His scales had faded to pale gray, but his voice could still shake walls. "We have 2 million ships. We will overwhelm them with numbers. We will drown their stars in our blood if we must." "That is exactly what they expect," answered Science Director Yelm. She was younger, her scales still bright green. "They showed us what they can do. They want us to attack so they can justify destroying us. Then we die fighting. We do not surrender to primitives." "They are not primitives," Kethvorin's voice cut through the noise. The chamber fell silent. The High Admiral stood before the council, still wearing his battle armor, still carrying the weight of everything he had witnessed. "I was there. I watched them kill a star. One ship, one weapon, one shot. They could end us all before we finished mobilizing our fleets." "Then what do you suggest?" demanded Thoss. "That we bow to these humans? That we become their slaves?" "They do not want slaves. They want partners." The word hung in the air like a foreign language. Partners. The Dominion had never had partners. They had subjects. They had resources. They had tools. But partners, equals? The concept was almost impossible to understand. High Chancellor Moren raised one of her 4 hands for silence. She was ancient, over 900 years old, and had led the council for 2 centuries. Her voice was soft, but carried to every corner of the chamber. "High Admiral, you have spent time with these humans. You have spoken with their ambassador. Tell us, do you believe they are sincere?" Kethvorin thought of Dr. Chen, her sad eyes, her gentle voice, the terrible images she had shared without flinching. "Yes, High Chancellor. I believe they truly do not want to destroy us. And yet they could. At any moment, they have ships positioned throughout our space. Every homeworld is within range. If they wanted us dead, we would be dead. Then why are we not?" This was the question that had haunted Kethvorin since leaving the human fleet. He had studied the device Dr. Chen had given him. He had watched humanity's history play out in horrifying detail. Wars beyond counting, atrocities beyond imagination. A species that had nearly destroyed itself not once, but several times. And then, change. Slow and painful and incomplete, but change. Because they chose to be different, he said. They had the power to become the greatest conquerors the galaxy had ever seen. Instead, they chose to become something else. They are offering us the same choice. Foolishness! Thos slammed his fist against the table. They are weak. They lack the will to use their power. We should exploit this weakness, not reward it. If mercy is weakness, then I pray we learn to be weak. Kethvorin turned to face the old commander. "I have conquered 47 worlds, Thoss. I have killed billions. I have watched civilizations burn and felt nothing. But when I saw what the humans could do and what they chose not to do, I felt something I had forgotten existed." "What?" "Hope. Hope that there might be a better way. Hope that all the death we have caused was not inevitable. Hope that we could become more than what we are." The chamber erupted again. Some voices supported Kethvorin. Most opposed him. The argument raged for hours, days, a week. In the end, the vote was close. Too close. The faction that wanted peace won by a narrow margin. But the faction that wanted war did not accept the result. On the 9th day after Kethvorin's return, 3 fleets broke away from Dominion control. 15,000 ships commanded by officers who would rather die than surrender. They declared the peace faction traitors. They announced their intention to prove that humans were not invincible. They set course for Earth. Kethvorin watched them go from the bridge of the eternal conquest. Part of him understood their rage. For 12,000 years, the Dominion had been the strongest. They had taken what they wanted. they had feared nothing. Now they were being told that their entire way of life was wrong, that everything they had built was evil, that they must change or face consequences. Of course, some would fight. How could they not? "High Admiral, should we pursue?" asked his second officer. "No, let them go." "But sir, they are going to attack Earth. They will doom us all." "Perhaps," Kethoverin turned away from the view screen, "or perhaps the humans will teach them the same lesson they taught us. Either way, it is out of our hands now." The rebel fleets traveled for 3 weeks. They pushed their engines to the limit. They crossed the empty space between Dominion territory and human space. They entered the solar system that held Earth. They found it undefended. No fleet waited for them. No battle stations orbited the blue planet. Only a single ship hung in space between the rebel fleet and humanity's homeworld. It was not the Mercy. It was smaller, less threatening. Its hull was silver instead of black. Its name was painted in white letters on its side. Forgiveness. Fleet Commander Thos led the rebel forces. He stood on his bridge and laughed at the sight. One ship. They send one ship to defend their homeworld. They are fools. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the human vessel." "Let them beg." A human voice filled the bridge. It was male, calm, almost cheerful. "Attention, Dominion forces. You have entered human space with hostile intent. You have been warned about the consequences of this action. This is your final opportunity to withdraw peacefully." "We do not withdraw," Thus roared. "We are the Dominion. We conquer. We do not run from one small ship." "Understood. Please proceed with your attack." "We will wait." Thus snarled at the screen. "All ships, open fire. Destroy that vessel. Then destroy the planet behind it." 15,000 ships fired at once. Missiles streaked through space. Energy beams lanced toward the silver ship. Nuclear weapons detonated in cascading waves. The firepower was unimaginable. Enough to crack a planet. Enough to shatter a moon. None of it reached the Forgiveness. The weapons stopped. Simply stopped. Missiles hung frozen in space. Energy beams bent around the ship. Nuclear explosions collapsed into themselves and disappeared. It was as if space itself had decided that nothing would touch the silver vessel. The attack continued for 3 hours. Every weapon in the rebel fleet was fired. Every ammunition store was emptied. And still the Forgiveness hung motionless, untouched, waiting. When the weapons finally stopped, the human voice spoke again. "Are you finished? We have medical ships standing by. Our sensors show some of your reactors are overheating. Do you need assistance?" Thos could not speak. His officers could not speak. 15,000 warships had thrown everything they had at a single human vessel and achieved nothing. Not even a scratch. "Commander Thos, we know who you are. We know your history. We know you have conquered many worlds. We know you have killed many people. We know you came here to prove that the Dominion cannot be intimidated." The voice paused. "You were wrong, but that does not mean you must die. We would prefer to talk. We have always preferred to talk. If you stand down now, no one will be harmed. You will be escorted back to Dominion space. There will be no punishment, no revenge, only a chance to choose differently." "Why?" Thos's voice cracked. "Why do you not destroy us? We came to kill you. We came to burn your world. Why do you show us mercy?" "Because mercy is the whole point. Because we could have been like you. Because we almost were like you. Because we know what it costs to walk the path you're on. And we do not want you to pay that price." Thos sank into his command chair. Around him, his officers were weeping. Warriors who had never known fear. Commanders who had crushed rebellions without pity. Now they wept like children because they finally understood. They had come to die gloriously. Instead, they had been treated like tantrums. Dangerous tantrums that needed to be contained, but tantrums nonetheless. "What must we do?" Thos asked. "Power down your weapons. Shut down your engines. Wait. Our ships will guide you home, and then you will have a choice to make, just like the rest of your people." "What choice? What kind of species do you want to be? Conquerors who destroy because they can? Or builders who choose something better? We cannot make that choice for you. No one can." But we can show you that another way is possible. We can prove that strength does not require cruelty. We can demonstrate that mercy is not weakness. The forgiveness moved closer, gently, slowly, as if approaching a frightened animal. Commander Thos, you have spent your life taking things from others, worlds, resources, lives. Today we are giving you something instead. We are giving you the chance to become more than what you were. We are giving you the gift we were never given, the chance to change before it is too late. Thos looked at the silver ship. He looked at the blue planet behind it. He thought of all the worlds he had burned, all the species he had destroyed, all the lives he had ended without a thought. And for the first time in his long, bloody life, he felt the weight of it all. Power down weapons, he ordered. All ships, stand down. The rebel fleet went dark. One by one, the warships lowered their weapons. Human vessels appeared from nowhere, surrounding the Dominion ships, guiding them into formation. The battle for Earth was over. It had lasted 3 hours. No one had died. And somewhere on the planet below, children continued to play in parks, unaware that their entire species had just passed a test they did not know they were taking. A test of strength, a test of will, a test of the hardest thing any species can learn, the power to destroy and the wisdom not to. 10 years had passed since the battle that wasn't. 10 years since Commander Thos and his rebel fleet had surrendered without a shot being fired. 10 years since the Dominion Council had voted to accept humanity's offer. The galaxy had changed. The conquest had ended. The harvest had stopped. One by one, the subjugated species were freed. Some fled from their former masters, settling on distant worlds where they could rebuild in peace. Others stayed, cautious but hopeful, watching to see if the Dominion's change was real. It was not easy. A civilization built on 12,000 years of conquest could not transform overnight. There were setbacks, incidents. Old habits died hard, and some refused to die at all. But slowly, painfully, the Dominion began to become something new. Kethovoran watched it all from his retirement on a small moon, far from the political centers of power. He had refused all offers of position in the new government. He had seen too much, done too much. He wanted only quiet and time to think about the strange path his life had taken. When the shuttle landed outside his simple home, he was not surprised. He had been expecting this visit for years. Dr. Sarah Chen walked across his garden, moving slowly. She was older now. Her hair had gone from gray to white. Her steps were careful, but her eyes still held that same impossible mixture of sadness and hope. "Admiral," she said, "or should I call you Kethovoran now? Just Kethovoran. I have not been an admiral for a long time. May I sit?" He gestured to a bench overlooking a small pond. They sat together in silence for a while, watching alien fish swim in lazy circles. "Why are you here?" Kethovoran finally asked. "I wanted to see you, and I wanted to invite you somewhere." "Where?" "Earth. There is something I think you should see." Kethovoran had never visited the human homeworld. He had seen images, of course. Everyone in the galaxy had seen images of the blue planet that had produced the species that changed everything. But he had never been there himself. "Why would I want to go to Earth?" "Because you need to understand something. Something I could not explain with words or images. Something you need to experience for yourself." He looked at her, this small, fragile creature who had walked onto his bridge without fear and offered his civilization a choice. She had saved billions of lives. Dominion lives, human lives, the lives of every species that would have fallen to Dominion conquest. "Very well," he said. "Show me." The journey took 3 days. Kethovoran spent most of it alone in his cabin, thinking about the past, thinking about the worlds he had burned, the species he had destroyed. The endless parade of death that had once been his duty and his pride. He wondered if he would ever stop feeling ashamed. Earth was beautiful. Even from orbit, it glowed with life. Blue oceans, green forests, white clouds drifting across continents. It looked fragile, breakable, and yet it had produced the species that had humbled the greatest military power in the galaxy. Dr. Chen took him to a city called Washington. The shuttle landed in a vast green park surrounded by white stone buildings. Humans walked along neat paths, talking and laughing. Some stopped to stare at the massive alien walking beside the elderly woman. Most just smiled and continued on their way. "Where are we going?" Kethvorin asked. "Here." Dr. Chen stopped before a long black wall. It stretched across the landscape, polished stone reflecting the sky and the trees in the face of anyone who stood before it. Names, thousands of names carved into the stone. Kethvorin leaned closer and saw that the names continued on and on, too many to count. "What is this?" "A memorial for soldiers who died in one of our wars, a long time ago." Dr. Chen reached out and touched one of the names. "My grandfather is on this wall. He died fighting in a jungle on the other side of the planet. He was 19 years old. I am sorry. Do not be. He made a choice. He believed in something. He was wrong about many things, but he was brave." She turned to face Kethvorin. "This is why I brought you here. Not for my grandfather, but for this." She led him along the wall to its end, then passed it to another memorial, and another, and another. Monuments to wars. Monuments to genocides. Monuments to plagues and disasters and famines. All the terrible things that humans had done to each other over thousands of years. "We keep these," Dr. Chen said. "We preserve our shame. We make our children visit these places and learn what we were, what we did, what we must never become again." "Why? Would it not be easier to forget?" "Easier, yes. Safer, no." She sat on a bench before a monument covered in the names of children. 6 million names. Kethvorin could not imagine what had happened here. The day we forget what we are capable of is the day we become capable of it again. We built weapons that could end everything. So we had to become people who never would. And the only way to do that is to remember. Kethvorin stared at the names. So many names. So many dead. And this was just one memorial in one city on one world. The humans had others. Thousands of others. A civilization that had chosen to carry its sins like weights, never forgetting, never forgiving themselves. "We built nothing like this," he said quietly. "The Dominion. We never made memorials for those we conquered. We simply forgot them. They did not matter. They mattered to someone. Everyone matters to someone." Kethvorin thought of the species he had helped destroy, the civilizations he had erased. There were no memorials for them anywhere. No one remembered their names. No one told their stories. They were simply gone. "Could we build something like this?" he asked. "For them?" Dr. Chen looked at him with those ancient, tired eyes. "Yes, you could. It would take a long time. You would need to research every species the Dominion ever conquered, find their names, learn their stories, remember them. Would it help? Would it make any difference? I do not know, but it would be a start." She stood and began walking again. "Come, there is one more thing I want to show you." They walked through the city, past monuments, past museums, past buildings that hummed with the business of a species that had chosen hope over despair. Finally, they reached another park. This one was full of children. "What is this place?" Kethvorin asked. "A playground, somewhere children come to play." He watched them, small humans running and climbing and chasing each other. They laughed with pure joy. They fell down and got up without crying. They played games that seemed to have no purpose except fun. "They do not know," Dr. Chen said softly. "They have no idea that ships like the Mercy exist. They do not know that humanity has weapons that can kill stars. They do not know that their parents and grandparents built the most terrible arsenal in the history of the galaxy." "Why do they not know?" "Because that is the whole point." Dr. Chen smiled, and for a moment, she looked almost young again. "We built those weapons so that children would never need to know about them. We carry the weight of our power so that they can play without fear. That is what strength is for. Not conquest, not glory, not domination. Just this." She gestured at the children. "Just the simple peace of children who have never known war." Kethvorin watched a small human girl chase a ball across the grass. She caught it and held it up triumphantly. Her friends cheered. She laughed and threw the ball again. Such a small thing. Such a simple joy. And yet the entire might of the Dominion had never produced anything like it. For 12,000 years, they had conquered and harvested and ruled. They had built an empire that spanned a quarter of the galaxy, but they had never built a playground. I understand now, Kethavaran said, why you showed us mercy, why you offered us a choice instead of destruction. Why? Because you want us to have this. You want Dominion children to play without fear. You want us to know what we fought so hard to destroy. Yes. Dr. Chen took his massive hand in her small one. Every species deserves children who can laugh. Every civilization deserves parks where the young can play. Every world deserves peace. We almost lost our chance to learn this. We nearly burned it all to ashes. But we survived, we changed, and now we want to share what we learned with everyone. Even our enemies, especially our enemies. We were not worthy of such mercy. No one is worthy of mercy. That is what makes it mercy. She squeezed his hand gently. Go home, Kethvorin. Build your memorials. Remember your victims. And then build something new. Build playgrounds. Build gardens. Build places where children can laugh and never know why they are safe. He looked at her, this small, fragile, impossibly powerful creature who had changed his life and saved his civilization. Will it be enough? Will we ever earn what you have given us? I do not know, but it is worth trying. She smiled one last time. That is the whole point of being alive. Not what we have earned, not what we deserve, just what we try to become. The sun was setting over the playground. Golden light turned the children into dancing shadows. Somewhere in the distance, a bell rang. Parents called. The children ran toward home, still laughing, still innocent, still free. They never feared war. They never knew that war was something to fear. And that, Kethavorin finally understood, was the greatest victory any species could ever achieve. Not the power to destroy, the wisdom to protect, the strength to choose mercy, and the courage to believe that even the worst could become better. He looked up at the stars appearing in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, the Dominion was changing, slowly, painfully, but changing. And for the first time in 300 years, High Admiral Keth Voran of the Velthari Dominion looked at the future and felt hope. Not for himself, for everyone.